so when we want to solve quadratic equations and there's a square root in there, the first step is we want to get the square term by itself. So if there's anything being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided by that square term, we need to get the square term by itself first. Okay? Then we take the square root of each side. Now, whenever we are taking the square root, we have to make sure to write our answer as a plus or minus, right? Because if we take the square root of something, and we actually did it in example 10 already, and we'll go over that again, the positive answer works, but the negative answer also works, correct? Okay? And then we simplify if we have to, or if we can. Okay, so we did example 10 yesterday in class, really quickly, but we have x squared equals 49. Now the square term is already by itself, so we can go to step 2, which is take the square root of each side. And remember, taking the square root of x squared gives us just x. But if we take the square root of 49, we can get positive 7 or negative 7. Why does that work? Because if I have positive 7 squared, what's that? 49. But what if I have negative 7, all of that squared also? It's still positive 49. So we have to make sure that when we are taking the square root, that we make our answer plus or minus, always. So let's do example 11. Same type of problem. First step we wanted to do was get the square term by itself. Is the square term by itself? Yep. So then we want to take the square root of each side. So we take the square root of w squared and the square root of 84. Square root of w squared gives me w. Now what about the square root of 84? Is that a perfect square? No. So what we need to do is find the perfect square. So let's do the prime factorization of 84. What are 2 factors of 84? What did you say? 12 and 4 or 2 and 40? 12 and 4 might be a little nicer, huh? 12 and 4. Okay, how does 4 break up? 2 and 2. How does 12 break up? 6 times 2, and then 6 breaks up?
12 times 4 is 48.
Oh my gosh. Marissa.
Come on.
Come on. So what would it be? 4 times 21. There we go. So that would be 7 and 3. That's nicer. So we're going to rewrite it as 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. Now where's my perfect square in there?
2.
The 2. So we would get w equals, remember we have to make it plus or minus 2 square root 21. Example 12. Now step 1, we want to get the square term by itself. So this time the square term is not by itself. So what do I have to do? What should I do first? Yep, we subtract 8 from both sides. So we get t squared over 20 equals 15 minus 8? 7. And the square term is still not by itself, so I need to do what? Good. Multiply both sides by 20. So let's multiply 20 on both sides. Those are going to cancel, and we're going to get t squared equals. Now, I am not going to multiply all of this out yet, okay? So I'm just going to write it as 7 times 20 because it's going to make it easier for us to factor out. And then what do we want to do? Take the square root. So let's take the square root. Square root of t squared is? T. And let's write out the prime factorization of this. 7 is a prime number, so let's do 20. 4 and 5, and then 2 and 2. So let's write it all out. 2 times 2 times 5 times 7. And where's the square term here? 2. So what would my answer be? T equals plus or minus 2 root 35. So if you know you're going to be taking the square root later, I would suggest maybe not multiplying it all out right away, because you're going to want to do the prime factors anyway. Okay? How do you guys feel about that? Okay, so example 13, we have x minus 3, all of that squared, equals 25. Now, question, our first step was to get the square term by itself. Is the square term by itself here? Yeah, it is. The square term is x minus 3. So what do we have to do? Can you what?
Put a to the second.
You can substitute, yeah. Why don't we do that? So we can substitute in, just like our quantities, a equals x minus 3. So we could get a squared equals 25. So then what do we want to do? Take the square root. So we get a equals plus or minus 5. Now, am I done? Is that my answer? No, because a was x minus 3. So let's put x minus 3 back in. And then what do I have to do to solve for x? I add 3 to both sides. So in this case, I'm actually going to get 2 different answers. My 2 answer choices, these cancel, are going to be x equals 3 plus 5 or x equals 3 minus 5. So what would that be? X equals 8 or x equals -2?